Hi, good morning. Welcome to the Business Spotlight series. I'm here with James Haddleton from Haddletons in Harrogate. How you doing, James?
I'm very well indeed. Thank you very much.
Great stuff. Thanks very much for joining us this morning. Just to start us off, as usual, if you could give us a bit more background as to who you are, what is it you do, how long you've been doing it for, please, James.
Yeah, by all means. So, as you say, I am James Haddleton. I'm the CEO of Haddletons, which incorporates Swift HR as well. We provide legal governance and HR services to businesses. Those businesses are typically high growth businesses with lots of IP and with the intention of gaining investment or selling out in the sort of near to medium future.
Okay, brilliant. And in terms of how long you've been there and how long you've been doing it for, what's the time frame from sort of conception of the company and your journey, really?
Yeah, so we set up here in 2017. So we've been going 8 years now. We made an acquisition in 2020, which involved a number of tech and science companies, medtech companies, um, out of a private equity investor. And they were typically companies that had come out of universities with lots of IP. So we've grown since then. We've had a few mergers and the like,
Mhm.
but those are probably the significant elements of our growth right up to date.
Brilliant. And in terms of your, I suppose, transition from what you were doing before 2017, what was that? And then what made you get into Haddleton's as it is today?
So I was a partner at a law firm,
Hmm.
uh, well, two large law firms, international ones, and then I was in-house counsel for a large pharmaceutical company listed on the AIM market. What I really wanted to do, though, was help growing businesses with their business challenges. I'm a business owner myself, so
Hmm.
I get that. Anyway, that was the inspiration for setting up in 2017. In hindsight, it takes a few years to get going, and of course, we were hit by COVID and all these
Yeah.
interesting issues which have caused uncertainty in the last few years. But
Yeah.
nonetheless, there's certainly been space for us in this market. So that's a sort of potted history of where we came from.
Fantastic. So we'll perhaps touch on that journey a little bit more in the next couple of questions. But in terms of if someone was coming to you and said, what's the reason we should work with you? How do you define that to them as kind of maybe point of difference or values that you work on at Haddleton's?
So our whole aim is to try and stop companies leaking value. Typically, companies, particularly smaller ones, well, they don't know what they don't know, and they don't have the
Mhm.
resources to find out and plug those gaps. So typically in the growth cycle, we see gaps in how people identify and use their intellectual property.
Mhm.
You see gaps in commercial contracts where people sign up to things they don't realize they've signed up to beyond the headline price, which create risk in the business. And particularly if they're looking for investment
Mhm.
or to sell in due course, it diminishes the value. So our whole process and our raison d'etre is to plug those gaps so that when it comes to it, they get the highest valuation
Mhm.
possible.
Fantastic. And what are the most gaps or common gaps would you say that you see?
Well, the most common gaps are not understanding intellectual property, so
Mhm.
not making a list of what intellectual property they have, not having a
Mhm.
strategy for it. There is funding available to do an audit of IP, national
Mhm.
funding available. There are rules and around that, but gaps in managing IP is a big one, and then in contracts, very basic things like ensuring that if you are selling goods, that there is a price increase clause
Mhm.
and you enforce it, or if you're on the other foot, that if you're buying goods, that there isn't one or that it's reduced.
Yeah.
Because if you are selling goods, you want to keep up with inflation, and in terms of evaluation of your company, if you're enforcing these terms, then you'll be maximizing the income and hence your profits when it comes to evaluation for sale.
Brilliant. So it's very much as you say, you don't know what you don't know, but helping people kind of add that extra
Yeah, and
value to the business.
yeah, I mean, particularly now with changes to employment law,
Hmm.
there are high risks around getting the contracts right, making sure that you're avoiding some of the basic mistakes that are likely to come up in the next round of employment legislation. So it goes across the board from employment, commercial contracts, intellectual property, to governance, where people they don't know what their cap table is, i.e., they don't know who is actually invested. They've made promises to people that they'll have shares.
Yeah.
And of course, when somebody comes to invest, they want to know exactly who has had shares or promises of shares. So
Mhm.
it's about getting all those things in the right position to maximize the valuation of the business.
And in terms of the definition, say, just for a little bit more clarity on your target market, the kinds of
Mm.
businesses that you work with, say size of teams or turnover, what would that be?
So they would typically be called your SME owner managed businesses.
Hmm.
They will be on a growth strategy. They will be IP rich. They may just have been spun out. But they probably won't exceed 100 million in revenues.
Hmm.
That's just a rule of thumb. We do have some who are
Sure.
larger, we have some who are smaller, but that sort of gives the picture of who we help. We don't have help massive corporates. They have
Hmm.
their own internal help and use larger firms than ourselves who are geared up to that sort of
Sure.
client.
Fantastic. So you, as then a business owner, you kind of touched on it earlier about starting in 2017 and going through that process of growth yourself and starting up. What's that business journey been like? Say if there's one word you could use to describe it, or two. Some people you end up using two or three, and then expanding on that kind of description.
Well, you start with a graph that has growth that goes straight like that, and a business that you think will operate in that way,
Yeah.
and it doesn't. It's ups and downs. It's COVID. It's people. It's operations.
Mhm.
It's a whole host of things thrown at you, which you can't foresee. And really, it's been a question of staying focused. So staying focused on the clients which we wish to work with,
Mhm.
and adaptation, adapting to the challenges that are thrown at us daily, and also making the most of resources out there for smaller entities like ourselves. So, whilst you hope for a trajectory like that, it is all up and down as you go along the way, no question. And I've never
Fantastic.
met somebody who set up a company who would say something different.
Well, it's a bit of a unique situation if it goes, as according to plan and, in that straight line as one would hope. But yeah, life isn't built that way in terms of lessons
No.
and challenges. So, in terms of those challenges, opportunities that you can foresee at the moment, there's plenty that, come along that we can't, that we need to sort of have flexibility to adapt to. But from your perspective in your market, say for yourselves, what the challenges and opportunities? And then what would be great again for people listening and good content, people in that you serve, your customers, what are their challenges and opportunities in the sector that you operate in?
Yeah. So I think there are the wider challenges which we have no control over, and they relate to the local and global economy. We're a service industry, so we service those who are doing business, and if they're not doing business, then nor are we. I think in terms of my own clients and those we wish to work with, they are looking for us to provide services which help maximize their value, but also they are keeping an eye on costs in this economic cycle. So we are looking, for example, at adapting AI to help
Mhm.
them with the services that we offer, giving them some degree of control about amending up their documents, doing it more quickly ourselves at a price point which they're happy with, and giving back to them some control over aspects of our services. A good example, I think, is employment law,
Mhm.
where we are developing a platform which, through the use of curated legal AI, enables
Mhm.
clients to uh, use that AI to produce documents, contracts, letters to their employees without the cost of going to a solicitor each time. So that's one way in which we are adapting to the modern
Yes.
world
Yeah.
to meet the challenge that many businesses face in this current cycle of the economy.
Brilliant. It's in terms of that AI piece, yeah, there's a lot of Fear over it or unknowns when businesses approach, well, how do I use this? But it sounds like you are embracing it with a dialogue with your customers as opposed to how would you like this to be utilized, one for your benefit and obviously for theirs, because we hear about many stories here at Action Coach of people who go on and get their own, for example, terms and conditions or whatever it might be from AI, but they're not obviously fit for purpose. But if you can go to a company like yourselves who can make sure that the AI tool that is being used is fit for purpose, then
Mm.
it's kind of a win-win, I guess. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes, I think we saw this when Google came in and people just put terms and conditions into Google and
Copy
pulled things off
paste.
the
Yeah.
internet. I've just been dealing with a company based in the UK, which has fines in dollars. Well, you can't fine somebody in a commercial contract, and you certainly can't do it in dollars if you could fine somebody. So people do just draw things from the internet and think it's fine. I think part of the problem is that they have finite resource. So if you can present to them a sensible, properly curated document which fits their needs, but perhaps isn't as expensive as it was in the past,
Sure.
then more people will take that up. It is a subscription basis. But from our point of view as well, they'll come to us with their real legal needs. So
Yes.
they'll
Yeah.
know that they need us when they come to us.
Actually, it's like a trust piece kind of coming in at a lower level, but then it develops the relationship
Yeah.
ongoing. So that's a great example of an opportunity for both yourselves and the marketplace in terms of your customers and prospective clients. Thank you for sharing that. That's a good share. In terms of then, say, biggest lesson, James, that you've learned through these challenges, these opportunities, running the business so far today, and I guess your career to date. If there's one that you could pick out, I'm sure there's been many. What would the one be that you'd like to share?
In terms of challenges, I think it's don't get down when the challenges seem insurmountable. Tomorrow
Mhm.
always comes. You will get people challenges, operational challenges, even things like COVID,
Yeah.
and they can get you down. And I think as it's a flight or fight response,
Mhm.
um, you need to know that if you face them, it can get better. It will get better. And you have your good days as well. But when you've got the good days, you've also got to realize that it won't go in that straight line up.
Yeah.
You've got to be balanced. You've got to
Yeah.
be focused, but you've got to realize most of all that you can do it and that the challenges are simply there for you to work out how to get past them.
Excellent. Sounds like a resilience kind of based
Yeah.
answer,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
developing that, as you say, through the good times and about not getting too excited when things are going really well, and then obviously not getting too down when things don't go to plan, which is quite normal. So, what's your inspiration then, James, to do what you do? We mentioned earlier about setting up because you wanted to help businesses, I guess, realize more value. But what makes you sort of keep going when the times are tough and get out of bed each morning, really, and go to work?
Um, I think what I love is helping businesses with their challenges. Often they're not strictly legal or don't present themselves as necessarily legal. So it's about helping businesses work out, often in the face of challenges which seem to be insurmountable. They're a matter of government policy they're facing, the big corporate boys. It's about working a way around those challenges. It's about using my network, my experience to help these companies do better. And I get a genuine, kick out of that.
Yeah,
And that's really what gets me out of bed in the morning, rather than a pure technical legal
sure.
approach.
Yeah, maybe that kind of emotional connection with what
Yeah,
your clients are looking to do and how you can help them.
yeah,
Especially, is it David versus Goliath sometimes in that respect?
yeah. We're bang in the middle of a discussion like that, and the tables are turning in our favour.
Yeah.
And you can see, as a result of our input with another entity as well, there's a small business that's going to be able to win a Swedish contract worth 1.5 million to a company
Mhm.
that turns over about 2 million. And it's because we have managed to get rid of an obstacle which was put in the way by a large corporate entity. So, yeah, and that's a great personal feeling when
Fantastic.
somebody who is invested in their own company has shares in it, has sleepless nights. You're helping them achieve something which might not have been achievable otherwise.
Brilliant. Love that. That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. In terms of any advice then for people wanting to get into your industry, or perhaps even reflecting on yourself and giving yourself a piece of advice if you were to look back starting out, what's something that you could offer?
I'm always wary of this because everybody has their own trajectory and their own life experiences born of, from childhood upwards. I think if you're setting up your own business, it would be, it's the obvious, really. Expect the unexpected. Never expect it to be a straight line growth, nor should you expect it to go down all the time. It's about being balanced and focused. I think for my own industry, wow, is it changing? And I think there is a need to get to grips with the technologies out there, but also don't think that the technologies and all these new whiz toys are going to take over. They thought that with Google, it didn't. It matters. It's just adapting to change. So I think adaptability to change and staying resilient if you're setting up your own business.
Nice. I like that. Obviously, based on experience, that adaptability to change. Yeah, when you have got the hindsight to see things come and go and how people responded, but the pattern remains the same. That it's can be a useful piece to add to things and not get too distracted by shiny toys. It's a
Yeah,
great
yeah.
piece of advice. So, lastly, then, before we end the interview, in terms of any latest news about what you guys are up to, or even if it's a case of sharing your website, if people would like to get in touch with you, feel free to do that now.
Well, we're www.haddletons.com. Invite people to come across and have a look at that. At the moment, in terms of what we are doing, we are very much building our support through HR services in particular, but also our commercial contracting to enable clients to do more for themselves using this curated legal AI. So if
Fantastic.
anybody's interested in that, come and have a word.
Brilliant. Thanks, James. It's been a real pleasure talking with you. Thank you for sharing all your experiences and all that you have. And I wish you all the best for the future success of the business.
Thank you, Mike.